Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Daily Triple. That's your no shit gaming news video. 3 news stories in one video with 0 faff. The question of are video games too long is something I often think about. I recently accused Assassin's Creed Valhalla of being too long, but some people said things like, how can a game be too long? To me, a game is too long if you just don't want to play it anymore. It's as simple as that. I spent 80 hours playing Valhalla, but after hour 30, none of the experience improved. Even a 5-hour game can be too long if it's boring and repetitive, and a 100-hour game can be too short if the story ends too quickly. The issue of game length is going to be one of the biggest obstacles for Cyberpunk 2077 when it finally launches in just a couple of weeks. According to Lucas Babiel, QA lead for the game, he spent over 175 hours in Night City, and it looks like he's not even done. 175 hours is an insane amount of time to play the game without even finishing it, but there are a number of talking points to bounce off from here. Firstly, he's the game's QA lead, meaning that it's literally his job to play the game very thoroughly to ensure that everything is working properly. Therefore, a 175-hour playthrough is justified, and it may not represent the average playtime. Secondly, how long a game takes to beat varies wildly between players and play styles. In a subsequent tweet, he said that this wasn't a completionist run, but it was a slower-paced playthrough on hard mode with more stealth, hence why it took so long. Thirdly, this playthrough is specifically for the Nomad character, one of the 3 playable classes available to choose from. In order to see absolutely everything the game has to offer, you're going to need multiple playthroughs with multiple characters, which will likely push that 175-hour playtime even higher. Finally, is 175 hours too long? That's my question to you. Well, ultimately that comes down to you as an individual in your personal tastes, but also how you're playing and over how long. I know a girl who sunk 400 hours into Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is just madness to me, but it's just a drop in the pond for her. 175 hours spread over the course of a year really isn't that much in the grand scheme of things, but 175 hours in a shorter period of time, let's say 2 or 3 weeks, will probably feel like too much to some people. I even acknowledged at the very start of my Valhalla review that having to play the game in a finite period of time influenced my opinion, but naturally some people just didn't listen to that part. The main quest is confirmed to be shorter than that of The Witcher 3 because some complained it was too long, and to be honest I would agree that The Witcher 3 is too long, but that doesn't mean that it's not a great game. Many of you will hard disagree with me that The Witcher 3 is too long, and that's totally fine my friends, but I am not the only one who thinks so. Much of that game involves doing a quest for someone, which involves doing a quest for someone else, which involves doing a quest for yet another person. In my opinion, that often got in the way of the main quest of finding Ciri and continuing the story. That's not to say that I didn't really enjoy my time with it. I even started a second playthrough last year, but I never found the main story as engaging as it should be because I felt it was a bit fractured, like I was only getting breadcrumbs of information. The side stories in The Witcher 3 are what pulled me through because they are some of the most compelling quests in all of gaming and even outdo many main stories in some games. So perhaps my phrasing is wrong. The Witcher 3's main quest is too long and it doesn't dangle enough carrots to keep you going, but the side quests, now that's the good shit. The challenge of any game of this size like Cyberpunk is balancing everything to keep the player engaged and experiencing new things. Assassin's Creed was too long because it didn't give me anything new and exciting beyond more forgettable alliance quests, which made all the flaws stand out that much more. 175 hours of Cyberpunk does sound absolutely amazing because that's a lot of content to sink my teeth into, and realistically, no matter how long it takes, I will see it to completion, even if at the end of it all I think it's too long. A game being too long doesn't mean that on the whole it's a bad game. I'd take 20 to 40 hours of engaging content over hundreds of repetitive filler every single time. So I'll ask my question again, is 175 hours too long? Yes and no, it all depends on you. 175 hours of pure immersive engaging content or 175 hours of boring bloat, that's up to you to decide. Even if Cyberpunk is too long, I still have every intention of consuming absolutely everything that game has to offer. And next up, Lord of the Rings is one of my favourite movie franchises ever. No, I haven't read the books because I've just got a dumb baby brain. Stupid. There have been a couple of really great Lord of the Rings games in the past, but it's been a little while since we got a new one. Amazon is currently working on the new TV adaptation of the books, supposedly telling different stories in and around the War of the Ring, and they are also working on a game. That game was previously announced last summer and is set to be a free-to-play MMO RPG. Did your enthusiasm just drop a bunch too? Because mine sure did. Lord of the Rings Online is a game that already exists, but this new one is its own separate thing. According to new documents from Hong Kong-based holdings company Leu, the game could be coming between October 2021 and March 2023. More specifically, according to the production schedule, it looks like an open PC beta for the game will launch sometime before the end of 2022, while the closed beta will be in September 2022. The full release on consoles is expected 12 months after the PC open beta. Also in the schedule, we see that a draft of the narrative should be complete in just a few weeks' time by January the 11th, 2021. However, it is worth noting that this schedule is dated for June 2019, so it could all have changed significantly since then, especially in the wake of Foster's Fever. These documents are official because they were not leaked, they were shared by Leu so that they could be inspected. This inspection is because Leu was recently bought by Tencent and is pending shareholder approval before it's finalized, so China's stake in the Western games industry continues to grow bigger and bigger. Shadow of War is the most recent Lord of the Rings game, and while I really enjoyed that game after Warner Bros. Took out all the horrific monetization, it's not really a Lord of the Rings game at its core. It does some weird things with Tolkien's lore and isn't considered canon in any way, so I just think of it as a separate thing in its own orc-filled universe. In addition to the MMO, there's a new game being developed and published by Daedalic all about Gollum that's due out next year on everything. He's not exactly the first character I'd choose to make a game about, but hey, it could be pretty interesting. Amazon is making this MMO, but it hasn't had success with its game so far. The Crucible came out in May and then was cancelled by November, both in the same year, and it recently delayed its other MMO, New World, which was supposed to already be out. Seeing Amazon move into game development doesn't strike me as an exciting new creative enterprise, but more like the biggest corporation on the planet looking for another pie to stick its paws in. Multiplayer games typically make more money than single-player games because of all the additional monetization, so I'm very skeptical when every game they're working on is multiplayer focused. It seems to me like they're not interested in making good games, they're interested in making more money. I've never been an MMO fan personally, so this Lord of the Rings game doesn't sound as exciting to me as it could, but maybe this will be the one to get me into the genre. If any franchise could, it would be Lord of the Rings. And finally, now that both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 have launched worldwide, the next generation of the console war has begun, and gamers have more reasons to shout at each other over hunks of plastic. Load times are the big thing going into the next generation, at least until more games come out and they can fully capitalize on the new technology. Last week, IGN put out a video directly comparing the two consoles' load times on the same set of games: Red Dead Redemption 2, No Man's Sky, Fallout 4, Hellblade, Final Fantasy 15, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Watch Dogs Legion. Their video is 6 minutes long and runs in real time, but I'm going to cut that down for you. No Man's Sky, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Watch Dogs Legion are all optimized for XSX and PS5, while the other titles are running on backwards compatibility. Assassin's Creed 13 seconds versus 11 seconds, Watch Dogs Legion 23 versus 20, No Man's Sky 18 versus 16, Red Dead Redemption 2 33 versus 40, Hellblade 6 versus 21, Fallout 4 10 versus 13, Final Fantasy 15 12 versus 22, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider 15 versus 22. Based on those figures, we can see that the PS5 is slightly faster at loading the next-gen enhanced games, but the XSX is faster, sometimes considerably so, at loading backwards compatible games. All this is only relevant for the time being, as the real tests will be when we see multi-platform next-gen games start coming out that aren't burdened by working on last-gen. So next time you're in an argument with a stranger you've never seen on the internet, be sure to pick your sides accordingly, or just remember that this console war stuff is bullshit and play what you want on whatever you want. Obviously, if you want to see the real-time performance on these consoles, there's a link to IGN's video in the description. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed this no shit format, go ahead and give the video a like to give it a boost, hit subscribe and the bell if you want to stay up to date on all future installments, toss a coin to your YouTuber over at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. I've been Henry Cooper, that's all for today, bye for now.